Let me introduce you too. So Matt Hare is an incredible bass player. Well, first of all, let me start it from that is a very, very good friend of mine, one of my oldest friends in America. So friends for almost 20 years. He's an incredible bass player. He is a faculty on the University of California in Irvine. He's the principal of Long Beach Ballet Orchestra and the principal of Mozart Classical Orchestra. And he is the guy who commissioned me to compose a Stratum dedicated to his late father. And Robert Voisey is a composer, and he's the host and the director of this amazing, program, Composer's Voice concert series that now he's doing as TV show as well.
So Hayk initially started out with violin at 3, transitioned to piano, was composing. When he was 11, his Requiem was played by the National Chamber Orchestra of Armenia.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like he actually did you
And
read?
then it's written right here, card in the back. And then let's see, through your teens, it was conservatories in Moscow and Paris.
Yes.
And then he winds up in Iowa at the University of Iowa to do his doctorate, and that's where I was doing my doctorate.
That's right.
And I only found all those facts out after the fact. He didn't just show up in Iowa and say like, "We can start now. I've arrived." He just showed up as this like humble, fantastic pianist that everybody wanted to work with. And after school, like he wound up on the East Coast, and I wound up on the West Coast. And then you had won a competition with management, and he kept showing up on the West Coast. And I'm freelancing in the greater Los Angeles area, so I'm always
That's
playing.
when we met also with Rob.
And he would be in LA, he'd be in San Diego, but I was always playing somewhere.
And then you saw me on TV, I think, at Newport Beach TV or something. You saw that that concert, and he called me. I was like, "Are you here?" I'm like, "Yes." And God, you live here. I forgot that he was like, I think like half an hour away or something like that, right?
Right. You were just up the coast.
From where that concert was.
So there was a promotional thing for one of your concerts that pretty much said everything I just said, that you were, this grown-up child prodigy who had done all this composition. And at the time, my father had recently passed away, and I was thinking, if my brother can use his dad money to get a Harley, maybe I can use my dad money to commission a piece in memory of him. And then all of a sudden, Hayk shows up on my TV as, a grown-up child composer, and I was like, this is synchronicity. I should reach out to Hayk. So that started the conversation about a commission.
Right.
And so we came to some terms that there'd be, a certain amount of money, and there'd be a piece that was 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I was going to send you some stuff about what the bass could and couldn't do, but you promptly got on a plane to South America, and on the plane wrote the piece, never had any input from me or what I could or couldn't do, and it was 3 times as long. You wrote a 15-minute piece.
I was like, I'm sorry. I remember we talked about 5 minutes, but it's actually over 15 minutes. Is it okay? I was like, dude, as long as you don't charge me 3 times, the fee that I paid you, I'm good with that. So I'm like, perfect. So it was interesting. I said yes to the commission instinctively. Right away, I said yes, and then as I was on the plane, for my next concert, I was like, but why the hell did I say that? How am I gonna do that? When am I gonna do that? I don't have time. I'm like, I'm never even like in New York. I don't have time like in front of the piano besides to prepare for these concerts. How am I gonna get and all this how? And I landed in Mexico City and this is when I turned back on my phone. And I read the continuation of the message talking about his dad and the commission. And before that, right before that, I also lost my grandmother that I was really, really close to. And I had my own share of this emotional, situation that I needed an outlet. And it just like resonated right away with me. And I understood immediately why I said yes without even thinking about it. And so the piece actually went really very quickly. Yes, I started working on it already during my Latin American tour, and when I got back to New York, and so we got back in touch with Matt and started working very intensively, very quickly. I finished the work and we presented it at the International Bass Convention.
So there's a International Society of Bassists.
That's
They
right,
do
yeah.
a convention every other year. So 2015, the convention was in
Colorado.
Fort Collins, Colorado,
Right.
and that's where we premiered it.
So Matt orchestrated the work for chamber orchestra, piano, and bass. So it became a concertante, and so that one we are going to perform with the National Chamber Orchestra of Armenia. And what's really amazing that so the solo piano and bass version is dedicated to Matt's late father, and this orchestrated version is dedicated to my late father. I know it's sort of like it has become, the symbol of our like brotherhood, and it was weird that, when he orchestrated, plus minus that same time I lost my father. So and this premiere by the National Chamber Orchestra of Armenia was scheduled to be in October. That would be also a year since my father's passing. And so he, kindly offered this dedication, and it was very emotional for me, to go to play that piece there.
But yeah, right around when I was orchestrating was when your father declined, and that
Yeah.
just seemed that was the natural reciprocal gesture.
So it's an interesting, piece with lots of ties that got published by Zimmerman Publications in California.
So in 2019, I started the orchestration and came up with something which was essentially a bass concerto, and the piano part had been totally disaggregated and sent off to the different players in the orchestra. And it became very challenging to coordinate because within the piano part, there is a lot of phasing, not just between Hayk and myself, but his hands phase amongst one another. So at certain points, there's this sort of tempo carriage underneath, but there are these other parts that need to have a sort of calculated looseness and then realign at strategic cadential points.
Right.
And it's one thing to do with, two friends that have known each other for 20 years. It's another thing to do with an orchestra. So after that, I'd say that orchestration, about 80% of it worked, but it became clear to me at the end of the night when we were doing like our post-mortem that the obvious solution was to make it a concertante. So a lot of the places with the that nebulous phasing, those could be kept to us, and then at other more strategic points, we could have the orchestra either lightly supporting or reinforcing, or just have all-out 2D spaces in.
And the piano became a solo instrument together with the bass. So, and how I like to be soloist. So I was very, very flattered to be back in the orchestra, not in the back of the orchestra, but together next to him. So yes, but there are parts, right hand accelerates while the left hand keeps, or the bass starts, fading out with also changing, the tempos, and yeah, it would be difficult to coordinate for the orchestra.
But it allows us to keep some of those really unique things that you do. So there are some places in the piece where he's got these post-its that are chopped up very finely, and he will put them inside the piano, because there are places where one hand is playing outside the piano in a traditional way, and the other hand is pizzicatoing in the piano, and it's
or
not
closing the hummers to make like more
But it's not a willy-nilly swishy effect like he has meticulously notated inside outside. So on top of all the polyphony and texture available to pianists, he's up the ante where he can pull the timbre of pizzicato piano or even palm muted piano, where he'll be playing right hand and his left hand is inside, almost like a Andy Summers Police kind of thing.
You know, why commission a work, you know, instead of buying a motorcycle?
Oh, let's see. I think, well, the first part of that answer is you open it and, you know, at the top, it's got my dad's name, you know, in memory of Gregory Hare. So there's that. And he wasn't, he never played an instrument, and he wasn't, this sounds almost, I hesitate to say it, but he wasn't like a terribly sophisticated listener. And he often joked that he was a patron of the arts, you know, like he helped me with my first instrument, and he didn't need to understand everything. He was just happy to help and participate and be part of it. And now he gets to keep doing that through it. As a student, you know, I always felt like you train and you do this stuff and then things will happen, and maybe composers just compose and their pieces go out and find players. And maybe that happens, but I suspect it's pretty rare. I think, you know, what I've learned in the last couple decades is you've got to make opportunities. People don't need to know about the 99 no's. You can just promote the one yes. It was an opportunity. It was a huge opportunity. I had to kind of make it and force it. But I mean, you know, this was, 8 years ago. You know, after the premiere, I didn't know what would become of this piece. You know, I knew it would be published. I didn't know if and where we'd be able to play it again. But it's just been incredible. I've made my money back. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. I've enjoyed this.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, Rob. This is really something much, much, much appreciated, and I really value this growing friendship, the artistic friendship.